Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're gonna get our hands dirty with one of my absolute favorite tools in Unity, Sprite Shapes. Have you ever looked at a 2D game with these beautiful rolling hills or complex organic caves and wondered how they did it without placing a million tiny tiles? Well, that's exactly what Sprite Shapes are for. So stick with me because we're about to build an entire world from a completely blank slate, and you'll see just how powerful and surprisingly easy this tool really is.
So here's the game plan for today. We're going to start right at the beginning, setting up a brand new Unity project just to make sure we're all on the same page. Then we'll create our very first sprite shape and give it a totally custom look. After that, we dive into the fun stuff, the actual sculpting, where we'll use splines, nodes, and handles to shape our level. And to wrap it all up, I'm going to give you a little creative challenge so you can really put your new skills into practice.
All right, first things first, every great world needs a solid foundation before you can start building. So before we can start carving out those awesome snowy hills for our snowboarder, we've got to get our Unity project set up, configure the right way, and load it up with all the art we're going to need.
Okay, so first up, go ahead and fire up your Unity hub. We're going to make a new project from scratch, so click that New Project button. Now this next part is super important. Make sure you choose the 2D core template. This sets Unity up perfectly for 2D work. It gives us the right kind of camera, sets the right import settings for our sprites. It just saves us a bunch of headaches down the line. Let's name the project Snowboarder, pick a spot to save it, and hit Create.
Now, you know how Unity can sometimes take a minute or two to build that new project? Well, this is the perfect time to do a little multitasking. You'll find a link to the resources for this session. Go ahead and download that zip file, snowboarder_sprite_assets. Once that's done, just unzip it somewhere easy to find, like your desktop. We're going to need those files in just a second.
So, once Unity has finished loading up, you'll see the classic editor layout. Just look down at the bottom for the project window. That's basically the filing cabinet for your entire game. Now find that Snowboarder Sprite Assets folder you just unzipped and literally just click and drag the whole thing right into the Assets area in that project window. Unity will do its thing, and you'll see the folder pop up right inside your project, all ready to go.
All right, project is ready, assets are in. Now we get to the real meat of this thing. In this next part, we're going to create the actual sprite shape object itself. This is the piece of digital clay that we're about to turn into our awesome snowy landscape.
So over in the hierarchy window on the left, just right-click. In the menu that pops up, go down to 2D Object, then Sprite Shape, and you'll get a couple of choices. We want to pick Closed Shape. See, an open shape would be for something like a single line or a wall. But because we're making solid ground that needs to be filled in, a closed shape is definitely what we need.
And boom, this is what you'll see pop up in your scene view. It's just a simple, four-pointed white shape. To be honest, it doesn't look like much at all, right? It kind of has this funny look, like a tank track sitting on its side. But trust me, don't let this simple look fool you. This is our starting block, and we're about to give it a personality.
So you're probably wondering, how do we actually make this thing look like snow? Well, the secret is something called a Sprite Shape Profile. Think of the profile as the brain, or maybe the style guide for our shape. It's a totally separate file that holds all the visual rules. It tells the shape which picture to use for the edges and what to use to fill in the middle. It's what gives our shape its entire look.
Now this is super important. When you first create a sprite shape, Unity hooks it up to a default profile. You should never ever change that default one. Why? Well, if you use other sprite shapes later, they'll all look weird, and even worse, a Unity update could just wipe out your changes. So the #1 rule is we always create our own.
And don't worry, creating our own is super easy. In your project window, just hop into the Sprites folder. Right-click in there, go to Create, 2D, and then pick Sprite Shape Profile. The first thing we should do is give it a good name. Let's call it Snow Profile. Now, click on your sprite shape object in the hierarchy, and hey, I'd really recommend renaming that object to Level Sprite Shape just to stay organized. With it selected, look over at the inspector on the right. You'll see a spot that says Profile. Just drag your new snow profile right into that slot. Done.
Awesome. So now our shape is officially using our own custom profile. But it still looks like that boring white tank track. So now's the time to jump into our profile and actually tell it what to look like. We're about to give this thing some real texture.
So this is the goal right here. We're going from this on the left, this generic white blob, and in just a couple of clicks, we're going to transform it into this on the right, with that cool repeating snow texture on top and a solid blue fill. It's going to look like real solid ground.
And you're not going to believe how easy this is. In your project window, find and click on your snow profile asset. That'll open it up in the inspector. Right at the top, you'll see something called sprites. This is just a list for all the edge textures. Find our snow tile low-res sprite and just drag it into that list. You should immediately see the border of your shape update in the scene. How cool is that? Then just scroll down a bit to the fill section and drag the blue fill sprite into its texture slot. And just like that, our shape has a brand new identity.
Okay, this is where the real magic happens. We've got our little piece of textured ground, but it's not exactly a level yet, is it? Now we're going to learn how to use the spline editor to stretch this thing out and really sculpt it into a full-on playable area.
To get started, make sure your level sprite shape is selected in the hierarchy. Then, look over in the inspector for the Sprite Shape Controller component, and you'll see a big button that says Edit Spline. Go ahead and click that. This puts our object into a special editing mode. You'll see the outline get highlighted, and more importantly, you'll see the little control points, we call them nodes, that define the shape.
And this right here, this is the core idea. You start with just 4 nodes, but you are not stuck with them. The secret sauce is that you can just click anywhere on that white line, the spline, to add a brand new node, right where you want it. And from there, it's literally as simple as clicking and dragging any of those points to start molding your world.
Okay, let's get in there and start shaping this thing out. Right now, our goal isn't to make it look pretty. It's just to block out a big area to work in. So start by clicking a few times on the top edge to add a couple more nodes for control later. Then grab the original top left and top right nodes and just drag them way out to the sides. Do the same for the bottom nodes. Pull them way down so they're completely off screen. We're basically just making a big, wide box that will become our levels canvas. Okay, so we've got this big, boxy level space. It's a great start, but let's be real. Snowboarding is all about smooth hills and curved jumps, not straight lines and 90-degree angles. So now we're going to master the tools that let us create that awesome, organic, flowing terrain.
So yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? We've got these points, these nodes, that make up the outline. But how in the world do we get those smooth, natural curves that a game like this absolutely needs?
Well, the answer is all about these things called node handles. When you click on any single node, you'll see these 2 yellow lines stick out from it. These are your tangent handles, and they are everything. They give you complete, artistic control over how the line bends and curves as it comes into and out of that point.
And what's so cool is how intuitive this is. If you drag a handle really close to its node, you get a super sharp, tight curve, perfect for a sudden dip or the top of a peak. But if you pull that same handle way out, far away from the node, the curve gets really wide and gentle, which is exactly what you want for a smooth, gradual landing ramp. Just playing with these handles is the key to designing levels that feel amazing to play.
So let's just do a quick recap of the controls you'll be using all the time. To add a point, you click on the line. To see its handles, you click on the point itself. You'll drag those yellow handles around to make curves. If you add a point you don't like, just click on it and hit the delete key. And a quick pro tip, sometimes you'll click off the object and all your nodes will disappear. Don't panic, just click your level object again and hit that Edit Spline button to bring them right back. Okay, you've got all the pieces of the puzzle now. You know how to make a sprite shape, how to give it a style, and most importantly, how to sculpt it with nodes and handles. So guess what? It's your turn. It's time to put all this knowledge into practice with a fun little creative challenge.
All right, here's your mission, and I seriously want you to pause this and give it a shot. Just take a few minutes and play around. Try to make a simple little course. For instance, I can click right here to add a node, and then pull it up to create a hill. Now, to make it feel like a proper jump, I'll select that node and drag this left handle out to make the approach really smooth. For the other side, I want a steeper drop, so I'll keep this right handle tucked in closer. See how that makes the curve tighter? Then maybe I'll add another node over here for the landing ramp and pull its handle way out to make that landing nice and gentle. What about a gap to jump over? That's easy. I'll just add 2 nodes close together, select the little piece of line between them, and hit delete. Gone. The goal here isn't perfection. It's just to get a feel for the tools. So go on, pause right now and build something cool.
And listen, this is so important to remember. Even though we're making a snowboarding level today, this skill you're learning is so much bigger than that. It's a fundamental technique for tons of 2D games. Think about platformers with rolling green hills, or side-scrolling racing games, or any game at all that needs terrain that isn't just a bunch of boring square blocks. Learning sprite shapes is a huge boost for any 2D Unity developer.
Just think about it. You literally went from a completely blank project to a custom sculpted 2D world. You now have the fundamental tools to build whatever you can imagine. Sprawling caves, floating islands, epic racetracks, the possibilities are endless. The canvas is blank, and the tools are in your hands. So the only question left is, what world will you build first? Thanks so much for watching.